I was just pottering about the garden. I was not pottering about the garden, I was pottering about the house. And I realised that I really need to repot the only strawberry seedling that came up out of 12. We know I'm not very good. But given it's the only one that came up out of 12, I need to repot it before it dies. So would you like to do that with me? Let's see if I can place you here. I feel like I never quite get the height right in my kitchen, but you don't really need to see my face. I've got the little seedling, a little pot. I've got some compost from the garden. I should probably take all of my rings off to do this. I'm not even going to use gardening tools. I think I'm literally just going to use my hands and a spoon because I'll end up getting everything out and making a mess. So I do need a little dish to put this on so that it can help drain. I feel like when things are okay, I need a little bit of a drink. I think I'm just gonna spritz it. I'm hoping that's, oh no, that's gone all over my camera. Let me dry you off. Oh God, I've made it even worse. Excuse me 1 second. Do you know what this is reminding me of? Is that better? I can't tell. Do you know what that just really reminded me of? Do you remember in lockdown when there was that TikTok trend where it was, oh, what does this do? And you like rubbed the camera and it was beauty mode and it'd go smeary and then you'd go from wearing a dressing gown to then being dressed up. No, maybe I'm just talking absolute rubbish as normal. I don't know how I'm going to get this out. Now, like, what all this is telling me is that they were way too overwatered, which is classic for me. So I'm not really sure how this little guy survived. But the thing is that they're quite dry on the bottom. So then does that just mean that there's not, yeah, look how dry that is. Yet they're all so wet on top. Does that mean that there's not adequate drainage? I feel like I really need somebody to, I'm just gonna give the roots a little drink. I also don't want to drown them, which I probably have done now. I just really need some helpful advice on where I keep going wrong, because I feel like my success rate is a clear indicator of the fact that I really do just wing it, because some things that are even supposed to be quite easy just don't work and I can't explain why. And then I get the odd thing that just comes out nicely. For example, people tell me to do tomatoes because they're really easy. I have never successfully grown a tomato plant. Never. So what am I doing wrong? In fact, I'll tell you what's so rogue. I tried to grow a strawberry plant last year. I bought an established strawberry plant, killed it, obviously. And then I started seeing brambles growing out of the strawberry plant. So I used Tom's app on his phone to check what type of plant it was, and it said it was a blackberry. So how did I start with a strawberry and end up with a blackberry bush? So I split the two, and now I think they're both dead. The bramble might still be there, but there's weeds growing all around it. The strawberry is definitely dead. I really want nice things in my garden, and I feel like everybody says how easy it is all the time, but I just can't do it. And even like chives, for example, I've got chives in my garden that grow every single year. So tell me why the chives on my windowsill just a green moss. I can't do it. I'm so bad. Anyway, here is, I need to give him a little spray on top, but here is my little strawberry plant. So I will keep an eye on this plant. I will love him and cherish him and look after him the best I can, and I'll keep you updated on how he does, because I really would like some home-grown strawberries. That would be so nice, right? Now I need to get rid of this, get rid of the other one, and clean up my mess. I feel like this could be a mistake, but I really want to do this greenhouse. Excuse the mess. I think in my last video I told you I got this greenhouse for my birthday, and I really want to put it together, but I'm also starving because it's definitely tea time. But I want to do this in the daylight, so I think I'm just going to go for it and see how it goes. Might regret it though. Here it is, all done. I've just finished tying up the little bows inside that keep it all secure. I don't think these are the most secure, I have to admit, but once they've got pots on, hopefully they should be okay. I suppose you need a little bit of give in them, but you know, it's something that is affordable. And I think I'm going to get rid of this awful thing here, so it'll probably go there. I just need Tom to come and help me move all of this, and then we will get this in its place. I might try and turn it around though, just so it's not in any direct wind. I don't think there's any wind due tonight. While I'm here though, look at these are my roses. The hydrangea Annabelles. I really need to chop those heads off, but look, they're all bushing. Amazing. I love it. And I'm going to show you, but please don't judge me. I really need to sort this out. But my fave flowers, alliums, are coming up. So that's exciting. Right, I am absolutely bloody starving. So I'm going to make some tea. Also, look, a big bruise on my arm. I don't know how I've done that, but coincidentally, I had the same bruise on this arm a few weeks ago. So I don't know if it's, you know, sometimes if your top is a bit too, like, cuts you off there. But I don't remember wearing anything like that, so I don't know what I've done. Anyway, I'm going to make some dinner, move this, make some dinner, and then chill, because I'm back up at the yard tomorrow early again, which is fun. Cookie, Cookie, hi. No, the neediest cat in the world just ran away from me when I tried to pick him up. Classic. Just making a little bit of tea. And I'm gonna do the Emily English katsu curry. I've done it before and it was really nice actually, so I will be doing that. So I really like these books actually because I feel like not everything in there is particularly calorie conscious, but it absolutely can be and some things are. But everything's obviously just so colourful, which I think is really nice. And I suppose is part of what you want in a varied diet. I think this year, and I've been bad at it so far, but what I feel like I'm cutting this cucumber like the Kendall Jenner moment, but it's because it needs to be sliced really thinly. Yeah, I feel like what I need to get better at this year, and what I've said I wanted to do but I've actually been terrible at, is paying attention to the food that's going in my body. Not necessarily from a weight perspective, although I wouldn't say I'm feeling the most confident in my body at the minute, but what I'm trying to do is find ways. I think I've spoken briefly previously about the fact that I've got a few issues with my back and it's all kind of coming from my hips. I've basically got sacroiliitis and I'm taking medication for it. There's a potential that I could have steroid injections under anaesthetic for it, but also I feel like when I got the diagnosis for it, I had some blood tests done at the time, and that was to see if I had markers for any sort of autoimmune, inflammatory kind of conditions, because my mum thinks she has rheumatoid arthritis and my grandma did have rheumatoid arthritis, and whilst I don't necessarily have rheumatoid arthritis, I do have the I do have markers that would suggest inflammation or autoimmune, or I'm susceptible to those kind of things. And my mum has a couple of other autoimmune conditions as well, and so, you know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that I probably do or will end up in the same or a similar position. So I feel like there's a lot you can do with diet to help with inflammation. The problem is that some things there's not a lot of, I don't know if it's that there's not a lot of research, but some things there's not a lot of evidence, I think, to suggest that certain foods are or are not good for inflammation, and then there's evidence to suggest that others are okay. But if you're really, really strict, then I think what you would end up finding is that you didn't eat anything. And I have a sister of a friend who basically eats a lectin-free diet, and that's all connected to inflammation, and she's got ulcerative colitis quite severely. Bring you up here while I chat. Yeah, she's got quite severe ulcerative colitis, and so she doesn't eat anything with lectins in. But lectins is not just, it's not like gluten, where yes, gluten is in absolutely blooming everything, but it's a group that you can cut out. Whereas lectin feels like you can have some fruit but not all fruit, and some veg but not all veg, and some meat but not this meat, and it's really hard. And so she basically has a very strange diet, and I don't want to end up in that position. But also I want to do something. And then some people say, well, follow the Mediterranean diet. But if I follow the Mediterranean diet, it contains certain fruits and vegetables that are from like the nightshade variant of vegetable, for example, that I shouldn't be eating. But then if I eat an overall Mediterranean diet, which is high in oily fish and other things, then that's good. And there's lots of fruits and vegetables in that diet. So it's all a bit confusing at the minute. And so I've kind of just gone, oh, never mind. But I really do want to do something about it. I think what I am going to try and do is just keep a really colourful, varied diet and try and limit what I eat that's kind of not processed. One sec. Sorry, one of the cats was just absolutely going nuts at the wood, scratching it outside, but I didn't know what it was. Yeah, I think what I'm going to try and do is keep as much of a varied diet as I can. I love fruit, love vegetables, love salad. Like, I've always had quite a good diet, but from a weight perspective, I've always had to, I felt I've had to be quite restrictive to get anywhere in terms of losing weight. And I know that sounds completely counterintuitive, and people say, no, like, you're not eating enough, that's why you're not losing weight. I've tried both. Trust me, I have. And I've been a gym girl, I've had PTs, I've done this, I've done that, I've done programs, and whilst the restriction is not sustainable, when I've lost weight, it's been when I've been eating fewer calories. When I've increased my intake of food, even if it's been really good food, and I'm absolutely smashing the gym and I'm under PT and they're giving me direction, I've always gained weight. Arguably, a lot of that could and probably has been muscle, but the problem with me is that when I felt my strongest and I've been my most muscular, I've also been my most unhappy, and I think that's because it's hard to sustain, for me, the muscle growth but then be lean as well, and so I end up bigger and bigger, if that makes sense. And so there's some things I want to do around my weight, but really I just want to eat a varied diet. I'm not going to try and go into the, well, you can't eat that because that's an inflammatory food, or don't eat that because that's an inflammatory food, if it's something like a fruit or a vegetable, as long as everything is in moderation, because I just think I can cut so many other things out before I cut out fruit and vegetables. I don't eat chocolate. Not that I eat loads of chocolate and sweets and crisps and biscuits and all that kind of processed stuff, but I could cut that stuff out first before I say we can't have that fruit or that vegetable. So I'm going to try and do a lot more of that, which means fresh cooking, which is, you know, the stuff from the Emily English books, which I love. And then I'm also going to try and buy some collagen. I've been researching it quite a bit. I'm also taking some other supplements like magnesium and various other things, which I've tried and tested, and I don't know, I don't feel like they make much difference. I'm not actually sure if these make much difference, to be honest, but I take them anyway. You've kind of got to build these things up in your system, don't you? So we'll see. And then I'm in a catch-22 with exercise because I want to do more horse riding. Horse riding isn't great for opening up my hips, so I do Pilates. Running, I think, would really help with my cardio, but too much running then doesn't help with the opening up of the hips, which then in turn will impact the riding, and it's like this vicious circle. And you end up in a position where you can end up just making excuses for yourself to not do any of it. So I'm trying to do a little bit of everything to give me some balance, not overdo it in one area and then have to kind of overcompensate in another area. And yeah, see where we go from there, basically. Maybe this year will be the year of hot girl summer for me, who knows. But anyway, I've waffled on loads, haven't I, when I'm trying to actually cook dinner, so I might just do a little zoom, not zoom, a little speed up of this, and you can watch me make my dinner. And then I might actually get to eat it. quite turned out as good as the last time. As you can see, the chicken is not slicing as neatly. But hopefully it's still going to taste as good. Broccoli. Chicken, which is not going to go on there neatly, is it? But hey ho. Oh dear me. In fact, this chicken's quite watery. You can run this sauce through the blender, but I actually don't mind it. Quite thick, so I don't run it through the blender. Partly because of, as I said, I don't mind it too thick, but partly out of laziness. There we go. That is my dinner.